Alright guys, my intention was to make a video just about sort, and when I finished I noticed that it was way too long, so I had to break it up into two parts. I ended up talking about box. So part one will be about box, part two will be about sort and why and when you would want to play one coverage over the other. Alright? Breaking news guys, the sort check against bunch is in the game. Kinda, sorta. It's a little bit bugged, but let's get right into this, okay? So what I have on the screen is the 422031 method that I go by, that I put together a while ago, and obviously, everyone doesn't subscribe to this, so again, I just want to preference this by saying this is the best way for me to look at defense and offense. And what we have is pretty much the stock coverages that fall under double high, the stock ones that come under single high. I put cover zero really isn't a double high safety defense. It's really a no high safety defense. But I put it in the double high side for simplicity. All right, so I'm not going to go over that because I don't want this video to be too long. All right, 422031. And the thing about this is under each family, so 4 is a family, 2 zone is a family, 2 man is a family, you have different variants, right? So under cover 4 quarters, you may have palms, you may have another variant after that, you may have different variants under 2 zone, 2 man, right? Like under 2 man, you could have cover 5 cougar, right? Okay, so the point of this is what I have at the top is bunch defense and checks. All right, in other words, there's different ways we can defend against bunch theoretically, because when you play against a particular formation or dealing with a certain problem, you don't want to have just one defense that you play against it. You want to have a number of different ways to deal with it. I would say at least 2 or 3. So, you're not predictable in your coverage defending against it, all right? And the reason why that is because, you never want to check a box in the always section or the never section. What I mean by that is, if I know as an offense, hey, whenever an offense lines up in bunch, this guy always plays box against it, right? So what that means for us is it's easier for us to prepare against you. We can just draw up route combinations that will destroy the way that you play box, and we can line up in bunch and torture you, right? Because you always play that. Or on the other side of that is, hey, when we line up in this particular formation, they will never blitz us, ever, right? So, that is a way where we can exploit you in that regard. There's you always want to have a set of different ways to defend something, and you never want to be in a spot to where you're never capable of running a particular set of things based upon a look, right? So that's why I think it's very important for us to have a number of ways to defend against bunch. And the problem with Madden is they really limit us in the toolbox when it comes to bunch, so we kind of got to come up with our own stuff, right? Now, what do I mean by checks? So bunch check, in real life, when you call a particular defense in for your defensive players to play, all right, the personnel that the offense is coming out in. So, hey, they're coming out in with 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 back. But you don't know what formation that they're going to line up in before you call your play, right? So when you call cover 2 zone and you voice that in, right? Now the defense knows we're playing cover 2. Hey, they're coming out in, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 back, whatever, right? And then they line up in their formation. So let's say they line up in bunch, okay? You may not want to play stock cover 2 against that bunch formation. So you'll have a check involved with the play where everyone on the team knows, hey, if we have cover 2 zone called and they call and they line up in bunch, what we're going to do is we're going to box the bunch side, right? And that's essentially what Madden does when you call cover 4 quarters. Now, see, the thing with Madden is, that's the unrealistic portion of the game. This is the unrealistic portion of the game that I don't have a problem with, where what formation that they're going to come out in before they come out in it, right? Because when you call a play, when they call a play, it tells you what formation that they're going to line up in, right? That's not realistic in real life. However, that's something that I agree that they should have in the game, right? Because we're not awarded the ability to prepare for an opponent for an entire week the way that they do in real life. So to kind of offset with that, and among all the other issues with the game, they allow us to see what formation that they're going to come out in, right? But when you call cover 4 quarters, it's automatically going to check into the box check on the bunch side of the formation. All right, and I haven't went over box. It is a pretty, I don't want to say self-explanatory. There's other channels that describe what box is, but I'll briefly go over it. So, this is a snippet, I believe, from the Georgia Bulldogs playbook. As you see, we have box. So the quarter flat player on the bunch side, okay, he has the outs, he's covering outside in, basically taking the first outside underneath. That's this player here. Okay, the read hook or the three receiver hook player, he will take the first inside. He will cut the first inside player underneath. That's this player here, will take the first inside underneath. Okay, and we have the inside quarter player. He will take upfield routes inside, zone it, or he will take the second inside cut. Obviously, that's this player right here. So first inside deep when it comes to Madden. All right, and then we have the outside quarter player, upfield routes outside, zone it, or the second outside cut. So in Madden, he's pretty much taking the first outside deep to the outside. All right. So this is a snippet from, I believe, the Raiders playbook. I don't know from how many years back. And I got this from NFL Honest on Twitter, so I've shouted him out before. All right, but this is their bunch. As you see, it says bunch tools, right? Everything, is in a toolbox. You have different ways to deal with different problems, right? And this is their box check that they use. It's a tool used versus bunch formations where 4 defenders will match up versus 3 receivers. The low defenders take anything their direction low. The high defenders take anything their direction high, right? And here we have different route concepts, just giving you examples that they have in here and how box should play against these particular routes, right? So you can take a look at this and get a feel for how box plays against it. And this is what we're aiming with when we play this particular coverage. Now, why would we want to box the bunch? There's a variety of different reasons. I'll just give you one. Where let's say that we're playing 2-man. We decide to play cover 2-man against the bunch. Okay? So this is our assignments. One of the issues you can get into when you're playing straight up man-to-man coverage and we're all on the same level is where we can get into potential rub and pick action from the bunch. Right? So as you can see, the outside receiver is coming in and an inside receiver is going out, and we kind of run into each other and we create an issue to where now we're out leveraged to the flat with the outside, with the receiver breaking to the outside. Okay. And on the flip side of that, the receiver on the outside coming inside on that same rub action, right? We get this little issue here where we run into each other, or it's just a way for the offense to create space. Right? So one way we can deal with this is to play box on the bunch side to where we can maintain leverage and keep a positional advantage on particular route concepts like that, right? So now we're boxing it here, okay? And we're gonna run the same exact play that I showed you before with the outside receiver running inside, inside receiver running out. And as you see here with this action here, we have positional advantage on the outside, right? We're not being out leveraged to the flat because the corner on the outside is playing first outside deep. The 3 receiver hook player is playing inside on that player coming in, and then we double the deep route coming to the outside, right? So that would be one of the main reasons, because I'm pretty sure there's other reasons, but I won't get into that. Those are just one reason as to why you may prefer to play something like box against bunch as opposed to playing straight up, man-to-man coverage. Now, there's solutions to play against bunch while playing man, right, where we get like lock and levels, things of that nature, right? But again, you want to have a number of different things to deal with the potential problem, all right? Now, here's the thing though, okay? There's pros and cons to everything. How can an offense exploit or attack a box type defense against their bunch, right? So take a look at box drive Texas. Right away I can see an issue here where they're running 2 routes inside, right? So yes, the backer he has positional advantage on this inside breaking route, but the nickel is out leveraged inside. And that's because in the coverage, he's taking the first outside underneath, but we don't have a route breaking to the outside underneath. We're bringing 2 inside. So the way I look at it is, if we were to bring two routes underneath to the inside or two routes outside underneath, okay, we can get an advantage in leverage on one of these underneath defenders. So let's take a look at some plays in Madden and see some plays that we can utilize to attack this box type coverage. So I've seen this play a number of times over the years, and I remember back in the day when I would see this play, I would be like, why in the hell would you ever run this? And now, you know, you should see why this would be a great play. Dig return against the rules set in box. All right, so here we'll run it if we know they're in box. Okay, and the reason why theoretically this should be great against box is because, remember, you know, this outside quarter flat defender, he's supposed to take the first outside underneath, so he's going to be forced to deal with that outside breaking route, and obviously he'll have leverage on that because he's already outside. He'll have the positional advantage. But the three receiver hook player, okay, he's taking the first inside underneath, but we don't have an inside underneath route, so he should attach to the second route breaking to the outside underneath. Now in Madden they have it coded differently here, where they have the three receiver hook player actually take the deep dig. I don't think that that's correct, okay? But, you know, the theory about all this is all the same. This is a great route concept to run against bunch because we have two routes breaking underneath to the outside, and we can get an advantage in position in regards to leverage on whoever has to deal with the second route breaking to the outside underneath. Okay, so in Madden they have it coded to where the three receiver hook player took that deep dig, so I thought, well, what if maybe it has something to do with the depth of the route, so I put a deeper depth at that route, and then now we see in theory how this particular concept can pose a problem for the box rules, right? We have two routes breaking to the outside underneath, so the flat route takes away that outside underneath defender, right, who should have good position there, but then the three receiver hook player who's forced to take that second receiver break into the outside has no chance to properly defend that route due to position. So now we're going to get into some interesting stuff here because, you know, that's just one way to attack bunch. What you can also do is, remember, they have two defenders defending deep and theoretically two defenders defending underneath, right? And remember what I stated in the earlier video, how you're trying to put the defense in a conflict. Okay, so we have two outside breaking routes that I showed you. You can also do two inside breaking routes to put pressure on that outside quarter flat defender, right? Because he has no one breaking to the outside, so he attaches to the second receiver breaking inside, and now he's out leveraged in position. Another way you can attack that is, well, if you're only going to have two defenders underneath, we could run something like the spacing concept, to where we have three routes breaking underneath against two defenders, right? Again, getting a 3-on-2. Football is all about numbers, getting your 4-on-3s, your 5-on-4s, your 3-on-2s, right? But another issue is, what if we send three receivers deep, where, you know, we can get potential big play touchdowns down the field? I'll never forget, I think Geronimo made a video, I believe last year, where someone was complaining about how their bunch was getting shredded up due to, I guess they were calling it unrealistic route combinations that a guy was drawing up from bunch. And Geronimo goes, well, you know, then he showed clips of the Ravens. I think they were playing the Cowboys, and the Cowboys were playing some type of quarters coverage against bunch. And the Ravens were attacking with three deep routes, causing issues against the rules that they had set for the quarters coverage that they had called, right? So, you know, that can be a potential issue with the rules that you have set in box. So what Madden does is, see, this is not a true split field coverage. And the reason why I say that is because whenever you send like three deep routes against a box type coverage in Madden, what they're doing is they are stealing the backside safety to help out on that third deep route. That's how Madden decides to deal with the potential issue of sending three deep routes. All right. So, you know, with that said, you're not really keeping the safety on the backside. You're really stealing him and poaching him to the front side. So in actuality, what I would call this is a 5-over-3 coverage, to where we have five defenders involved with defending potential problems from the bunch. Okay, so I'll show you an example. Now in the last clip with the X, he was in a reduced split. So they may play a cut technique on that side where the safety will take the X on an underneath breaking route to the inside, and then the corner will take the responsibility of the safety. So then he would be the poacher over to the bunch side. I haven't checked to see if they had that coded in. All right. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, back to what I was saying is the way Madden has it coded when it comes to playing like cover 4 quarters or palms against bunch is, again, we're boxing the bunch side, but we're actually playing a 5/3 type of coverage because we are keeping the safety involved with the bunch side if we get 3 deep routes. And they do that, I assume, because they don't want people to break the quarters box rules by sending 3 deep receivers from the bunch, right? Because, you know, when you have the bunch called, you have 2 deep receiver corners, not corners, but 2 deep defenders involved with taking, you know, a deep outside route and a deep inside route. The problem is if we send 3 deep, that's 3 into 2, right? So the way that they deal with that is they take this backside safety, poach them over for that 3rd deep route, so, you know, you don't get people crying about their box getting into trouble, right? But as I stated, now you have a 5/3, and the weakness of that. Now we're going to get into the reason as to why you would want to run a different check in Madden, like sort, as opposed to how Madden has box coded, okay? Because in Madden and box, it's really kind of like a 5/3 coverage. And the weakness of that is, well, now, okay, you're playing 5/3 against particular route concepts. But what that does is it keeps it a 2-on-2 on this side of the field. So it's not a true split field coverage. Split field coverage would mean this side of the defense is independent of this side of the defense, but the backside safety is involved with this side, right? So it forces us to be man-to-man, one-on-one on the backside. And if you play against someone like myself who knows that you're playing this type of coverage against this formation when I line up in it, what I'll do is I'll put my bona fide receiver here on the opposite side of the bunch, and I will work this receiver to death, knowing that he's one-on-one and he has no help. Okay? So this is a potential weakness, as you can see, one-on-one. That guy has no chance against one of the best receivers in the league, right? So we snap the ball. Take a look at this safety here. Notice how he's in between the hash and the numbers, but I think he's hinging more on the hash due to the coding of the game, because he has to be aware of, you know, a potential 3 deep receiver concept coming from the bunch side, because they want him to poach over for that, because the game has it to where they don't want it to where 3 deep receivers from the bunch can break your defense, right? So, you know, this is a form of setting up matchup advantages for your offense by formation alone. Maybe you know that they're running a coverage like this, so you know you're going to get one-on-one on the backside, so you line up your best receiver on the backside of 3-by-1 formations or bunch, etc.